Ex-pro tennis player Jack Sock recently shared in an interview that the hardest thing to learn in his transition from tennis to pickleball was the dink. And what's really funny is that when people see dinking, they think that it looks really easy, but it's arguably one of the hardest shots to hit in all of pickleball. So the questions that I'm gonna be answering in this video is, how can a shot that looks so easy be so hard to master? What can I and you personally do to make dinking as easy as brushing our teeth? And lastly, what are the key dinking strategies to help me have an advantage on my opponents? I'm Austin Hart, and if you're new here, Pickleball Playbook is a place that you can come to learn strategies, tactics, and techniques to help improve your pickleball game faster than you ever thought possible. So if that sounds like you, be sure to hit that subscribe button. It helps me out a ton and allows me to be able to keep producing videos just like this, and that is my promise to you, is that you will improve your game as you become a subscriber of Pickleball Playbook. If you're already subscribed, I can't thank you enough for all the support. Let's open the playbook. So before we can talk about the easy fixes that we need to make dinking as easy as brushing our teeth, and also the specific strategies that you can use to pull your opponents off the court and instantly take advantage of the point, we first need to understand why dinking is so difficult. And what it comes down to is the measurements of the court, and specifically the measurements of the kitchen. So from the net tape to the kitchen line, we have 7 feet to work with. This is a total of 7 feet. It might not look like it, it might not feel like it, but we have 7 feet to work with. What makes this a little bit more difficult is the fact that our opponents can dink the ball out of the air while standing behind this line. So this line doesn't extend, obviously, up in the air. It's just that you can't step in here and hit a ball out of the air at the same time. So since they can reach in, well, my arm's about 3 feet, but we could say that now you have 5 feet to dink to, where you can get an effective dink on your opponents. Because since they can reach in, if we get that ball slightly high, they can really easily speed up that ball, or they can just apply more pressure by simply dinking out of the air. So now that we know we only have 5 feet to hit to, it makes things more difficult. And what makes it more difficult is the fact that our opponents are giving us different paced balls. They're giving us some soft balls, some fast balls, and some medium balls. And so because of this, we have to either absorb or we have to be aggressive with the next shot to get it to go where we need it to go. An advantage that we have with the dink is the fact that we don't have to hit it directly to our opponents. So yes, it's 5 feet if we hit it directly to them, but if we hit it over here to the corner of the court or over here to the middle, we have more than 5 feet. We have about 6 feet. Because yes, they could still get it out of the air, but they have to move to the ball. They're gonna be a little bit later. So now that we can kind of understand why dinking is so difficult, it's because we don't have very much room to dink to. Let's start by talking about the specific fixes that you can make to make dinking as easy as brushing your teeth. All right, so tip number 1 to having an extremely consistent dink to where it's as easy as brushing your teeth in the morning is locking your wrist. So keeping your wrist locked throughout the entire motion. A lot of you out there probably don't realize, but you're breaking your wrist through contact. This is what I see all the time when people are dinking. Lots of wrist movement. When we add on a hinge or another variable, it makes things more inconsistent than if you just keep everything firm and take away that variable. So whenever we're dinking, there are 2 positions that our wrist needs to be in. Either a neutral position, which is going to be for backhands and forehands coming directly at our body. Neutral is where if you were to draw an arrow, it would come directly from your forearm all the way out your hand. Cocked back position is another position where whenever you're pulled off the court hitting a backhand, you're going to be cocked back in this position. When I'm hitting the backhand, it's not breaking through contact. I'm not hitting and breaking at the same exact time. This can also happen when we're hitting a forehand out in front of us, reaching out and hitting that dink out of the air, or just hitting it out in front of us in general. It's going to be cocked back. The most important thing is making sure that you aren't adding variables by breaking your wrist, but just keeping it cocked back or keeping it in that neutral position, that fixed position throughout the entire motion. Obviously, you clicked on this video because you want to improve your pickleball game, and there's not a better tool for doing that than the Titan ball machine. If you want to have a consistent dink, the Titan ball machine is going to give you accurate shots in different locations to make it comparable to playing against an actual person. The best part about it is that you can get $150 off by simply clicking here or going to the link at the top of the description of this video. The Titan ball machine is my ball machine of choice because it's simply the best. It has the best technology, the most advanced technology. It can move you around from different positions from one shot to the next, and it actually feels like you're playing against another person, just like how I talked about before. So if you're in need of a great training partner and you want to get really good at consistently dinking the ball, hitting drops, any shot in pickleball, the Titan ball machine is going to be your best friend. So be sure to check it out. Number 2 is just hinging from our shoulder. So instead of utilizing our elbow and our wrist as we hit through the shot, we're locking our elbow, we're locking our wrist, and we're hinging and lifting from our shoulder as we hit through the shot. Again, this is one of those things that takes away those variables. If you just focus on this one thing as you hit through your dinks, you're gonna be way more consistent. Especially when you get out and try to get reps, If you can have that same exact motion every single time, just hinging from your shoulder, you're gonna be a whole lot more consistent than if you were to be bending your elbow throughout contact. So if you wanna have a more consistent dink, make sure that you're just hinging from that shoulder. Number 3 is understanding that when the ball bounces on our side of the court, it takes away about 50% of that ball's power. So when it bounces, we want to have a bigger motion with our dink than when we're taking that ball out of the air. So specifically, if I'm dinking out of the air, my motion is going to go here to here. Really, really small. But if the ball bounces, it's taking away 50% of that ball's power. So I have to add a little more oomph into it. And the way that I'm gonna do that is by extending my motion a little bit further. Obviously, this is one of those things that's gonna come down to getting in reps and figuring out how far you need to go, depending on if that ball is out of the air, how fast your opponents are hitting the ball out of you, or if the ball is bouncing. But just keep that in mind, 50% of that ball's power is gonna be taken away every single time that it bounces. So don't do as big a motion or the same motion you would if the ball is bouncing. And the fourth and final one to make dinking as easy as brushing your teeth is to hit dinks cross court whenever you're in a match. But when you're practicing, practice directly up the line. The reason that we want to practice directly up the line is because you have less room to work with. So if you can get consistent up the line, as soon as you get into a match and you're hitting dinks cross court, it's going to be as easy as brushing your teeth because you have way more room to work with. So if you can get good down the line, hitting dinks cross court is going to be way easier. All right, now we're going to talk about my favorite dinking strategies to win more points. Apply pressure on our opponents. And the first strategy is what's known as anchoring. So what I'm going to be doing is stepping out wide to get the dink, and then I'm going to anchor my inside foot to where it slides. Just like how an anchor does behind a boat, okay? It slides and it's supposed to catch on something and then stop. And that's our entire goal. If instead I'm moving both feet at the same time while I dink through the ball, that's not allowing my eyes to focus. In order for your eyes to be 100% focused and hit the sweet spot, you actually have to be 100% still. Obviously that's unrealistic, especially with how pickleball, we're so close to our opponents and they're speeding up the ball. You're not gonna be 100% still, but the more still that you can be, the better you're gonna be at hitting that ball right at the center of the paddle every single time. So what you're gonna be doing is whenever your opponents pull you out wide, or maybe they pull you towards the middle, you're gonna take that outside leg, okay, wherever the ball is going, take that big step, and then you're just gonna simply slide that other leg as the anchor towards your target, and you're gonna try to be as still as possible at contact every time. A big mistake that I see amateur players make is that they'll actually cross this foot over and they'll close themselves to the court. If I ever see my opponent cross this foot over and hit this dink, there's really only one location that they could possibly hit it. That's directly up the line. It's really hard for them to hit that ball back cross court. So I'm gonna be jumping for an Ernie like 90% of the time. So you wanna keep your body pointed towards your opponent's majority of the time. Now that said, this isn't a one size fits all. If it's more comfortable for you to cross that leg over, then I suggest doing it, but you're gonna have to get really good at consistently getting that ball back up the middle of the court whenever you're pulled off the court. But generally, if you're just starting pickleball, or maybe you've been playing for a couple of months, or maybe you just wanna take your game to the next level, you wanna try to keep your body towards your opponents. You're gonna have quicker reaction times, you're gonna be able to recover quicker. So that's what's really about this, is that you're stepping out with that foot that's towards the sideline, step, slide, dink, trying to stay as still as possible through contact. All the weight's on this foot, and now I can shoot back towards the middle where I just dinked the ball. Maybe I dinked it back cross court. Dinked is such a weird word, but maybe I dinked it back cross court. I can then come back and hover over the middle of the court. Whereas if you're crossing that foot, it's gonna take you a lot longer to get back to your ready position. So if you pop that ball slightly high from this position, you're gonna be in a lot bigger trouble than if you pop it slightly high from this position. You're already down low, you're already hovering over the kitchen line, and you're already back to the middle. Strategy number 2 for setting up winning points with the dink is hitting to the front half of the kitchen whenever we're on defense. The front half of the kitchen is, if I were to split the kitchen in half, long ways like this, it's gonna be this half of the kitchen that's closest to the net. So if I were to color all of that in, that would be the front half of the kitchen. This is the location that we wanna go to whenever we're on defense. We're pulled off the court, we're in a bad position, our opponents hit it at our feet. We wanna be able to hit it to this spot on a dime consistently. And the reason that we wanna hit it to this spot consistently is because our opponents can't attack from this position. So if we can get consistent at that, that, we're gonna be extremely good at staying in points, and then we can set up something after that. There's nothing that's gonna help you to get more consistent than getting out and getting repetitions in. And the best way to do that is with the Pickleball Drills app. If you haven't heard of the Pickleball Drills app, it has hundreds of different drills that are regularly uploaded all the time into the app by the top pros of the sport. So whether you wanna work on your dinks, your drives, your drops, and no matter what your level is, it has the specific drill just for you. So it has two-person drills, it has ball machine drills, and it has wall drills. So whether you have someone to drill with or you don't, it has drills for literally everyone. So it's the best way to improve. I can't suggest it enough. You can click right here to access the app and start your free trial, or it's at the top of the description of this video. Strategy number 3 that I absolutely love is what's known as the pressurized zone. So if I were to take one of my feet inside the kitchen, just inside that line, and then I were to draw a line all the way across this long part of the kitchen, that's the pressurized zone. And what I see happen so often is that players try to be aggressive when their opponents are hitting the ball in this position. So it'll either be that the ball's behind them, and then they try to hit topspin on this ball, or they'll try to hit the ball really cross court from this position when they're pulled off the court, or they'll just simply be back here and they're trying to dictate play. Whenever we're in this position, here's what you want to do. You want to hit either slice dinks or push dinks. And we're trying to specifically get these dinks to land in the front half of the kitchen. If we can do that, we can start the point over. We can bring it back to a more neutral position where they won't have the opportunity to attack, especially if we can keep the ball low over the net. Now there's a big difference between a push dink and a slice dink and a dead dink. A dead dink looks like this. Okay, it's pretty much a lob where they can either take that ball out of the air or wait for it to bounce and then absolutely tee off on it. A push dink or a slice dink looks more like this. We're going to the front half of that kitchen, we're going low over the net. We're not giving our opponents a good opportunity for them to tee off on the ball. So this is what we want to be doing whenever our opponents hit it in this pressurized zone. And keep in mind that the pressurized zone can go beyond this line as well. So if we're back off of the line and they're dinking way back here, that can still be the pressurized zone if we're not taking the ball out of the air. So just make sure that you're making that good decision to not be aggressive with balls whenever they're in the pressurized zone. Instead, hit push and slice dinks low over the net and keep them in the front half of the kitchen. Number 4 is what's known as the bounce hit method. The bounce hit method is where you're pretty much shutting off the part of your brain that wants to overanalyze everything and really get into the technique behind your shots, and helps you to just be able to hit the ball in without even thinking about it. So what you're gonna be doing is saying bounce when the ball bounces and hit when you hit the ball. Specifically when dinking, you're gonna say bounce, dink in your mind. You can say this audibly in practice. I wouldn't suggest doing it when you're in a match, but while you're practicing, you'd absolutely say it audibly. And then after you're done practicing, when you're in a match or anything like that, you can just say it in your head. Bounce, hit, bounce, hit. Sounds like the silliest thing in the world, but it shuts off that part of our brain that wants to go into the technique and practice new things. As soon as we get out into a match, it's not time to start practicing new things. It's not time to focus on our technique. It's just time to focus on strategy and placing the ball in particular positions. So the way that you can do that and not have that part of your brain that likes to take over is by just simply saying bounce, dink, bounce, drop, bounce, dink, and you'll automatically be able to hit these shots in. So it sounds super silly. It comes from a book called The Inner Game of Tennis, which gives you the mental side of things for tennis. Fantastic read. I strongly recommend it. It applies just as much to pickleball as it does to tennis. Obviously, if you've never played tennis before, they have certain terminology in there, but you'll get the general gist, and it will help you to improve your game. So try this method the next time that you go out. I absolutely love it. The 5th and final tip to setting up winning points while we're dinking is picking a spot above the net to hit to every single time. So specifically, the spot that you want to hit to whenever you're hitting aggressive dinks is 2 inches above the net. If you're hitting a less aggressive dink or maybe even a neutral dink, you're going to be about 4 inches above the net. Obviously, the lower you can go, the more aggressive that dink is going to be. And you want to be able to hit that spot above the net every single time. Because if you pick that point above the net, it's going to land on the court where you want it to. The problem is with our brains is that we automatically pick a spot on the court, and the problem with that is that the net is in the way. Since these nets have visibility through, since they have holes all the way through, we see the court, and so we just automatically aim for that court on the other side of the net, and it ends up in us hitting majority of our dinks into the net. So the quick adjustment to that is to take that spot above the net, 2 inches above the net with offensive dinks, 4 inches above the net with non-offensive dinks, and you'll be able to consistently hit it into the kitchen every single time. So it's a fantastic little tip that you can use to be more consistent on your dink and set up more winning points. Make sure that you are subscribed, because in next week's video, I'm going to be giving you everything that you need to know to drop like a pro. The drop is arguably a little bit harder than the dink because we're doing the same exact margins as a dink, but we're doing it from behind the baseline, so from a further vantage point. So this can be a little bit more difficult, but I'm gonna be giving you the exact tips and strategies to make dropping extremely easy. So again, make sure that you're subscribed. And if you wanna see Colin John's 15 tips for 4-0 players, watch this video right here, and I'll see you over there.